Despite what you might have heard, Colorado's air pollution didn't go away when so many of us stopped driving. It's sending scientists on a search for what else is in the air. Weld County's top doc is leaving, though it's not clear Weld County was listening to him anyway. The health director rocking the suburbs by extending the stay-home order talks with me about calls for his firing.
So I would be disappointed. I would think it was frankly a mistake, but I would be, kind of goes with the territory.
Here, kids, sit down in front of the computer and learn about art or something.
Was creepy what you were going for?
And a man who survived D-Day and Normandy sees a show of force right outside his window. That's next. We didn't solve Colorado's air pollution problem by staying home for a while, but we are giving scientists an opportunity to study an unprecedented changed environment to figure out what other than our cars is polluting our air. Here's Anusha Roy.
So we all ran in to turn on our instruments.
Jessica Gilman with NOAA collected data around the clock in Boulder during this last month and found some sources of pollution dropped by half during the pandemic, mostly connected to cars. The state found the same story.
Decreases of anywhere from 10 to 50% for all pollutants. But
while cars started disappearing from the road, pollution still stuck around. Researchers realized they had a unique window to study the next layer of the problem.
I've got my hand lotion, my hand sanitizer that I carry with me everywhere, paint, coatings, adhesives, shampoo.
All of those can be sources of something called volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, that could eventually mix with outside air. When VOCs interact with other pollutants and the sun, that can add to the ozone problem. Researchers know people are using these products, but with less car pollution, they now have the chance to study them more closely.
And it also makes it that much easier to actually understand the contribution of that one particular source these consumer products can have on air quality.
This goes beyond just lotions and shampoos. It includes understanding how much pollution comes from construction and changes as the oil and gas industry feels the impact of low prices.
The activity in that industry is decreasing very fast.
That could change the makeup of the air pollution. But what can you actually do with data pulled from an extraordinary time like this?
It's not something we hope to repeat.
It tests scientists' understanding of where pollution comes from and gives a sneak peek into the future.
And that would be if we continue to do more telework than we're doing and or electrify our vehicle fleets.
So that ultimately helps researchers, right, figure out if these strategies would even be effective. And at the end of the day, they're just like you and me, right? They're using hand sanitizer more, the same home products, but they're just trying to understand if and how much this is contributing to the issue, and if there could be more environmentally friendly products out there for people to use.
You know, Anusha, I think I'd love to think that some good came out of the economic pain that everybody had, that there might be some long-term impact from what happened.
Yeah, when you look at the pollution that dropped, that's more of a short-term impact, right? Just based off of what was happening. The one thing the state did say was that when it comes to pollution from industrial activities, things like wildfire smoke, it can actually travel a really far distance and can stick around for days, if not weeks. So if we start to see that go down around the globe, we could start seeing a longer term impact from that, Kyle.
All right. Anusha Roy, thank you so much. See you next week. Being Weld County's health director has got to be like being Evel Knievel's driving instructor, because you can give them all the tips you want about safety, but they're just going to go out and do their own thing. Dr. Mark Wallace has decided that he is going to take the next exit. He told Weld County commissioners he will retire as the county's health director at the end of the month. He's been there for 20 years. The county's press release says that Dr. Wallace wants to, you guessed it, spend more time with his family. Weld County's commissioners allowed any business that wanted to reopen to do so last month in violation of the state's public health orders. Despite Weld County's smaller population, it has Colorado's third highest number of COVID-19 deaths, behind only Denver and Arapahoe County. Slowly but surely, the number of Coloradans in the hospital for COVID-19 is dropping. 610 people hospitalized as of today. 40 patients have been discharged or transferred in the last 24 hours. So add to that encouraging news this really encouraging news. The daily testing rate in Colorado jumped up in a big way from about 3,500 tests yesterday to almost 5,500 tests today. Let's hope that it can stay there, above the state's current testing goal. Houses of worship are making some tough choices about reopening right now. Catholic churches around Denver can start holding Mass again tomorrow with restrictions. A Baptist church in Northeast Denver told us it plans to stay closed. New Hope Baptist congregation has a lot of doctors and nurses in it. That's one reason the Reverend Dr. Eugene Downing told us they are going to stay closed. He's also worried about COVID-19's disproportionate impact on the black community. And he even brought up the idea of the potential danger to a black person who's wearing a mask out in public.
It impacts everyone differently, and so we've been trying to be very cognizant of that, and for that reason, being thoughtful about the fact that while we respect the decision of congregations to reopen, that we have to be mindful about some of the unique needs in our community and how it impacts people in our congregation.
New Hope is going to keep doing what so many faith communities are doing, gathering online. Bailout math is like regular math, only it makes even less sense. Take the money given to airports around our state. Some got millions upon millions of dollars from the federal government. Other airports just got enough cash to hang on for a few months. Here's our Mark Salinger.
The runways at Northern Colorado Regional Airport have been quiet lately.
What we're finding is about a 75% decline in our overall activities.
But even as planes sit idle on the tarmac, the bank account is filling up. The airport in Loveland was awarded nearly $16.9 million under the CARES Act passed by Congress. That's enough to sustain their yearly operating budget for nearly 14 years.
This is really at a critical time to meet those needs that wouldn't have happened if the CARES Act didn't provide it.
Wade Troxell is the mayor of Fort Collins and the chair of the Northern Colorado Regional Airport Commission. The airport is small and hasn't had scheduled commercial flights since 2012. He says the money will be used to keep staff employed during the pandemic, but mostly non-pandemic related improvements like expanding the runway and building a terminal.
There's about $30 million of unmet capital needs.
I would be extremely grateful to have that kind of money.
Paul Anslow's airport didn't get $16.9 million. He runs Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport, the fourth busiest airport in the state. His CARES Act payout totaled just $157,000, more than 100 times less than the much smaller airport up north.
Logically, it makes no sense.
The FAA says they used a formula to decide how much each airport would get. They say it was based on how much debt each airport had, cash reserves, and the number of passengers. 9 News aviation analyst Greg Fife is still confused about the disparities in funding.
Where's the oversight by the FAA and the government for doling out this money? Did anybody verify all of these numbers before they started cutting checks?
Now, the FAA says that any airport that received more than 4 years' worth of their operating expenses from the CARES Act will have to then demonstrate what they can do with the additional money. Kyle.
And Mark, this even has the attention of Governor Polis today.
Yeah, Governor Polis today said that he would encourage Congress to look at other ways of funding these smaller airports that perhaps didn't receive as much money from the CARES Act.
All right. Mark Salinger, good to have you with us this week, reporting live from the Salinger estate. Okay, here is an odd question for you. What should we keep? We've been so quick to say what has been difficult during our week stuck at home, but what should we keep? As the Denver metro area prepares to come out from under the stay-at-home order this weekend, let's all give some thought to what we have actually liked or even loved about being close to home. I want to keep the new morning routine that I've built with my 2-year-old. We have learned that I can juggle getting into work for the day while getting her up and around. There's no way that I'm letting that go. I'd like to keep the Sunday afternoon video talks with college friends. We have never been better connected, even though we're apart. I'd like to keep the conversations that I have with my neighbors. When you ask, how are you doing and do you need anything, you really do mean it. So I want to ask you, as the stay-home order is lifted and we look back on this period of time, what should we keep? Tell me your answer. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext.
He literally signed up for this. A pandemic, tough decisions, the anger that comes with that. I'll ask Colorado's most controversial public health expert if he's worried about getting fired. Stan is the man. Turned 100 on Thursday. Probably doesn't want to hear your whining about staying home after he fought through D-Day in Normandy.
No means am I a good teacher or formal.
You don't have to be good as long as you're entertaining. It's Next's motto, and it's the teaching style of the man we'll meet in a moment.
The most criticized public official in Colorado, behind the governor, is probably Dr. John Douglas, head of the Tri-County Health Department in Denver's suburbs. We talked this week about being at the center of the storm.
You'll hear people sometimes remark, I didn't sign up for this. You did sign up for this.
Yeah, I did. And in fact, my training is as an infectious disease physician. And so, I've been dealing with infectious diseases my whole career. And this is the infectious disease of my career.
So you've got the mayor of Aurora's frustration. Brighton City Council was pretty ticked at you guys meeting earlier this week. Douglas County used to be mad, then they got their way. Now Douglas County's not mad anymore. Is that just how it works? Or are you disappointed at the way that this has played out?
Well, I'm an optimist. I guess I like to believe I can make most of the people happy most of the time. This has proven that that's somewhat of a challenge. We've tried to act on the best science we can. We've tried to act on the best public health rationale we can, without being completely oblivious to the other things. I mean, I, for example, am fighting the COVID epidemic, and that's a primary priority. But if people lose jobs, if people lose health insurance, their health suffers. We've got, mental health hotline stuff going through the roof. We've got people afraid to go to hospitals or dying at home of heart attacks. Those are real health issues. So I'm trying to balance those health issues. And, as we veer one way and veer another, we won't always make everybody happy.
Do you have any fear of getting fired?
No, actually not at all. My wife would be delighted. I think it'd be a bad time to fire somebody in the middle of a pandemic, but if the board under who I serve made that decision, I've got a lot of stuff to catch up on.
My full conversation with Dr. Douglas, including his thoughtful answer to my question about why the advice from experts like him keeps changing, is all in our full interview on the Next YouTube channel. Colorado brings in masks from suppliers around the world, and CSU has the job of testing them out. Researchers have gone through about 80 different types of masks. About a third exceeded the N95 standard, so they are the top-notch ones. Now, that's not to say that the other two-thirds are useless. They will all be distributed just for scenarios where less protection is what's needed. So you know how we do on Fridays. Let's hear some of your good news. Head up to Fort Collins, where World War II vet Stan Sepulveda had a century of days like this one, but never a day like this. Here's our Byron Reed.
One by one, family and friends in Fort Collins are lining up to honor one of their heroes.
Uncle Stan, he's the most amazing man.
Vicki Albert wanted to do something special for her uncle, Stan Sepulveda, a U.S. World War II veteran who now lives in a senior care facility.
He went through two battles. One was, I think it was Normandy, and then also D-Day. He made it through the war and came home, and we're so grateful for that.
Sepulveda is now reaching another milestone in his life. He's turning 100 years old.
I was just going to come up and sing happy birthday to him through the window.
It's an achievement his family was afraid they wouldn't be able to celebrate with him in person.
Then COVID came, and of course everybody's sheltered in place. And he was so disappointed.
So they decided
maybe 40 cars of people
to organize a parade.
I just saw him through the window, and he is very excited.
Outside of the Columbine Health Center so he can safely see their support. His family and friends say they wanted to show their gratitude for a man who's been a role model to so many for the past 100 years.
No, I never said I'd be 100 years old. Today, it's been wonderful with all my friends coming up.
For next,
I hope he realizes how much he's appreciated by what we're doing today.
I'm Byron Reed.
This weekend, birthday gift, Sepulveda is going to go on a virtual reality tour of spots in Europe that he couldn't exactly sightsee during his service, like the view from the top of the Eiffel Tower in Paris.
Some precious cover for parents.
Hopefully that gives them a few minutes to go catch a break, grab a shot.
A distraction for hundreds of young Coloradans each week while their parents do work or do shots or whatever. Next.
Remote learning for students is a treat. Parents know that. Also, a parent who happens to be an artist knows that, which is why he's decided to help out with an online art class to occupy the kids. Our Ann Herbst takes us to an art school on the interwebs.
A nice little smiley face.
Lately, it's been a little hard to see the color in the world.
Are you critiquing my butterfly?
Even Daniel Crozier, a guy who sees all shades.
So we got that.
Knows the world is feeling a little, well,
Not yet. Okay.
Daniel's an artist.
I'm a comic book artist. I've also started doing murals.
COVID-19 makes audiences a little harder to come by.
Hi, Kendra. Hi, Grace.
But he still found an attentive, somewhat attentive crowd.
How you guys doing so far?
Once a week, Daniel plays art teacher.
School shut down. I figured they needed a little extra something to do. And what I could contribute was doing art classes. By no means am I a good teacher or formal. Was creepy what you were going for?
I wasn't expecting his eyes to look like that.
His students on Zoom feel far away, but close to home.
Uncle Danny, look at my Mickey.
Oh, I love my nieces and nephews. They're like little hobbits, with less fur on their feet.
It smells. It smells like licorice.
Other kids are paying attention too on Facebook.
Our minds are expanding over here.
Giving their parents
They need a wine break.
a breather.
If this can provide it for them, I'm happy to help. What's your favorite thing about Mickey Mouse?
I don't really like Mickey Mouse. I like Mickey Mouse.
I think this is a perfect opportunity to, share what you do creatively. All right. I think stuff like that brings us closer together.
Look at mine. It has his shirt.
With each lesson, Daniel makes the color around us a bit easier to see.
Okay. Thank you.
For next.
All right. Thanks, guys.
This is Ann Herbst.
Love you, kids. See you, Kendra and Karen.
Daniel holds class Fridays around 3 o'clock. He does take requests on what you want to learn to draw. You can find a link to his unorthodox Facebook Live art classes in this article on 9news.com. What you are telling us that you would like to keep from our time at home. Next. So many thoughtful answers to my question of what we should keep from our stay-home era. Laura says simply, gratitude. Norma says that we need to keep the one-way lanes in the grocery store, keep the to-go alcohol, and especially keep that, yes, absolutely, that meeting can just be an email. Carrie says let's keep waving at all of our neighbors as we drive down the street. Pamela wants to keep a whole neighborhood tradition. She says where she lives, every evening residents in her apartment building come out on their balconies to sing together a hymn or two. They always end their hymn sings with Amazing Grace. Kathy Burton writes in to say that she would like to keep the pursuit of new recipes. Forget who it was who wrote in who said that they would like to keep being a chef and not a cook. I love that one too. Dennis says, let's keep next in Kyle's basement. I don't think the boss is going to go for that. I love your ideas. Keep them coming. Have a great weekend. See you next time.